Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Let me ask you something. Have you ever found yourself staring at your computer screen halfway through the day, wondering, what's the point of all this? Why am I here doing this job again? You see, many people wake up, go to work, do what's expected of them, and repeat the same cycle day after day. But what if work wasn't just a paycheck? What if it wasn't just about climbing the ladder or hitting deadlines? What if work was a platform for purpose? Simon Sinek teaches us to start with why. And today, I want to challenge all of us to start looking at our careers, not just as what we do or how we do it, but why we do it. Because when we align our work with a deeper purpose, something powerful happens. We stop surviving and start thriving. Today, let's explore what it means to live a purpose-driven life at work, and how discovering your why can turn your job into a calling. Most people go through life focusing on what they do and how they do it. They wake up, go to work, complete their tasks, and return home, often without thinking too deeply about why they do what they do. This pattern becomes a routine, and while it may seem productive on the surface, it lacks the core element that brings deep satisfaction: purpose. When we begin to live a purpose-driven life at work, we shift our attention from merely executing tasks to understanding the reason behind our actions. Simon Sinek, a well-known leadership expert, emphasizes this idea with his famous concept, a start with why. The idea is simple yet transformative. People and organizations that understand and communicate their why are more inspired, more driven, and ultimately more fulfilled. Purpose gives meaning to the mundane. The same job that once felt draining can suddenly become meaningful when you connect it to something bigger than yourself. For instance, a janitor working in a hospital may not see himself as just someone cleaning floors, but rather as someone who contributes to the healing environment for patients. His why isn't cleaning, it's caring. When people internalize this mindset, their energy changes, their commitment deepens, and their work becomes a reflection of who they are, not just what they do. Purpose-driven people don't rely on external motivation because their drive comes from within. They understand the value of their work beyond the paycheck. They recognize that what they do has a ripple effect on others. Whether it's a teacher inspiring the next generation, a barista creating a moment of kindness for someone having a rough day, or a tech professional building tools that make life easier, each one is connected to a larger impact when seen through the lens of purpose. When individuals operate from a strong sense of purpose, they also become more resilient. Challenges, obstacles, and setbacks no longer feel like roadblocks, but rather tests of their commitment to their why. They don't easily give up because their work is tied to something personal and meaningful. It's not just about finishing a project, it's about fulfilling a mission. In a world where job roles and industries are constantly evolving, having a clear sense of purpose becomes even more important. Skills can become outdated, titles can change, but purpose is timeless. It becomes your anchor in the midst of uncertainty. When others are shaken by change, those who are grounded in purpose remain focused. They adapt not just to survive, but to continue serving their deeper why in new and creative ways. Purpose also brings alignment. When your personal values align with your professional actions, there's harmony. You stop feeling like you're one person at work and someone else outside of it. This alignment reduces stress and increases authenticity. You no longer need to wear a mask or pretend to be someone you're not. You're simply being yourself fully and honestly because your actions are consistent with your beliefs. Organizations benefit massively when they encourage their teams to start with why. Purpose-driven teams are more engaged, more innovative, and more loyal. When employees believe in the mission of the organization and see how their role contributes to that mission, they don't just show up, they show up with heart. That's the difference between a workplace that survives and one that thrives. But finding your why is not something that happens overnight. It requires reflection, honesty, and a willingness to dig deep. It's about asking yourself questions like, what impact do I want to make? What do I value most? What am I willing to struggle for? These questions guide you toward your unique purpose, the reason you get up in the morning and give your best effort, even when it's hard. Living a purpose-driven life at work doesn't mean you have all the answers. It means you're seeking them. It means you're not content with just doing, you want to mean something through what you do. That desire, that intention, is what separates people who simply have jobs from those who live with meaning. And when you find your why, every task, no matter how small, becomes a part of a larger story, a story that only you can write. In the pursuit of success, many people and organizations make the mistake of prioritizing profits over people. They measure achievement by financial gain, quarterly results, and market share, often forgetting that behind every number is a person, an employee, a customer, a colleague, a community. But the truth is, meaningful work doesn't come from spreadsheets or sales charts. It comes from relationships. When people become the focus, not the means to an end, something powerful begins to happen. Work becomes human again. Simon Sinek has often emphasized that leadership is not about being in charge, but about taking care of those in your charge. This perspective shifts the entire culture of an organization and transforms the way individuals approach their roles. When people feel seen, heard, and valued, they give more of themselves, not because they're told to, but because they want to. When leaders prioritize empathy, connection, and trust, the workplace stops being a battlefield of competition and starts becoming a community of collaboration. In a purpose-driven environment, the relationships we build matter just as much as the goals we achieve. A team that communicates openly, respects one another, and genuinely supports each other can outperform a team with more experience or technical skill. Why? Because the power of human connection fuels motivation, creativity, and resilience. People will go above and beyond, not for a bonus, but for each other. They don't want to let down their teammates. They care. And that kind of loyalty can't be bought. It has to be built. It has to be built. When people are treated like numbers, they begin to act like machines. They clock in, do the minimum, and wait for the weekend. But when people are treated like human beings, with hopes, struggles, and potential, they respond with enthusiasm, dedication, and heart. They invest themselves fully. They bring their best ideas, their passion, and their energy into every task. This is the difference between having employees who show up and employees who engage. In the modern workplace, where stress and burnout are at all-time highs, the need for connection is more urgent than ever. It's easy to get caught up in deadlines and deliverables, but taking the time to build relationships is not a distraction from work. It's the foundation of it. A quick conversation to check in on a coworker's well-being, a sincere word of encouragement, a gesture of appreciation. These things matter. They create trust, and trust is the currency of effective teams. Customers can feel it too. A company that values people radiates that energy outward. When employees feel cared for, they pass that care on to customers. It's not just about customer service, it's about customer experience. People remember how they were treated. They remember the warmth, the sincerity, the way someone went the extra mile. That kind of experience builds loyalty, not just to a product or service, but to a brand and what it stands for. The most successful organizations aren't the ones with the flashiest marketing or the biggest budgets. They're the ones with the most meaningful cultures. Culture is not what's written on the walls. It's how people treat each other when no one is watching. It's in the tone of voice, the daily habits, the small decisions. When people feel like they belong, like they matter, they become stewards of the culture. They protect it, nurture it, and grow it. Building meaningful relationships at work doesn't require grand gestures. It starts with listening. It starts with being present. It starts with asking questions like, "How can I help?" or "What matters most to you?" These are not just polite phrases, they are invitations to connect. And when connection happens, the work takes on a new energy. It becomes less about tasks and more about shared purpose. In a world increasingly driven by technology and automation, the human element is what makes the difference. Machines can perform functions, but they can't care. They can't empathize. They can't inspire. That's something only people can do. And the more we invest in each other, the stronger our teams, our workplaces, and our missions become. People are not distractions from the work. They are the work. They are the heartbeat of every organization, the carriers of its vision, and the reason behind every success story. When we choose to put people over profits, we don't lose anything. We gain everything. Because people who feel valued will always deliver value. In today's fast-paced, achievement-driven world, it's easy to define success by titles, awards, and outward accomplishments. From the time we're young, we're taught to chase the next milestone, the promotion, the raise, the corner office, the recognition. But the truth is, these labels are temporary. They change, they fade. What truly endures is the impact we make and the legacy we leave behind. That's why a purpose-driven life at work isn't about chasing labels. It's about creating legacy. Simon Sinek often reminds us that leadership is not about being the best in the world, but about being the best for the world. That idea shifts the focus from personal gain to lasting influence. A title may grant authority, but legacy comes from service. True leaders are not remembered for the positions they held, but for the lives they touched. It's not about how high you climbed, but how deeply you cared. It's not about being in charge, but about making a difference. When we focus solely on titles, we risk becoming disconnected from our deeper purpose. Titles can give us a false sense of identity. They can make us believe our value lies in our position, rather than in our contribution. But when a title is taken away or when roles shift, as they often do, we can be left wondering who we really are. That's why grounding your work in purpose is so powerful. It allows you to maintain your sense of direction even when the external world changes. Legacy, on the other hand, is rooted in values. It's about how we treat people, the standards we uphold, the integrity we demonstrate. It's about the mark we leave on others, not because we were required to, but because we chose to. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to this legacy. The way we listen, support, encourage, and uplift others becomes part of the story we're writing every day. There's something freeing about letting go of the need for validation through labels. When we're no longer obsessed with how we're perceived, we can focus on how we're impacting others. We begin to measure success not by applause, but by alignment. Are we living in alignment with what we believe? Are we proud of how we show up in the world? These questions matter more than any job title ever could. Legacy also inspires consistency. When we live and work with legacy in mind, we begin to act with long-term vision. We're no longer just solving problems for today. We're planting seeds for tomorrow. Whether it's mentoring a younger colleague, creating a culture of kindness, or building something that others can carry forward, these efforts shape a future we may never fully see. But that's what makes it powerful. It's about giving more than we take. It's about making decisions with others in mind, even when it's not convenient. One of the most powerful examples of legacy is found in the leaders who lead quietly, without fanfare. They may not be the loudest voice in the room, but they're the ones others turn to for wisdom, for support, for guidance. These leaders create ripple effects that last long after they've moved on. People may not remember every word they said, but they will remember how they made them feel. They will remember the courage, the compassion, and the authenticity. Legacy also transcends industries. No matter what field you're in, education, business, healthcare, the arts, your impact is not limited to your job description. It's found in how you treat people, how you respond to adversity, how you carry yourself in the face of challenge. A legacy is not built overnight. It's built in the everyday moments when no one is watching. It's built in quiet acts of integrity, in consistent kindness, in doing the right thing even when it's hard. It's easy to get caught up in the pressure to prove yourself, to compete, to earn recognition. But when you live for legacy, the competition fades. Competition fades. You're no longer trying to be better than someone else. You're trying to be better for someone else. That subtle shift in perspective changes everything. It takes you from ego to purpose, from self-interest to service, from short-term wins to lasting influence. Every person has the ability to leave a legacy, not just CEOs or public figures, but anyone who chooses to live intentionally. You don't need a title to be a leader. You don't need fame to have influence. You just need to show up with purpose, act with integrity, and care enough to make a difference. Kevaus, your legacy is built in the lives you touch, the character you show, and the example you leave behind.